I'm Tana. I live in Nevada. I'm 45, and this is my survivor story. My house was toxic. My parents fought all the time. My only place of refuge and like sanity was either with one of my aunties. It was either with Aunt Cookie, Aunt Nancy, or Aunt Claudine. Well, there was this guy named Andre Green. He was like my boyfriend from like kindergarten to the ninth grade. So when I first met him, it was because I hung with his nephews and like younger people that bought and stuff from him. And then I used to be in the music and things locally in Louisville, Kentucky, where I'm from. And he had a makeshift studio on his own, and he was working on trying to be a producer. So I used to go in and out of the studio doing music. In the beginning, he was kind of like an uncle to me. Then, years and decades went past. And then in 2009 is when we actually became a couple. I had been at the psych ward because June the 30th of 2009, I had been kidnapped, beaten and raped, and held hostage for 24 hours. So I had to do a stint in the psych ward for that. There was a point where I stabbed a guy, and I was covered in his blood, and I thought I had killed him. When they released me from the psych ward, they had me on a bunch of medications, and one of those medications was for my epilepsy, and it was called gives you a sunlight sensitivity. So when I walked out in direct sunlight, it felt like somebody was blowtorching my body. So I had to wait till the sun was going down to come outside. And I lived in the projects, and I was very indigent. And I was walking around the building trying to walk off the lethargic effect from the medication. And I went over my brother's best friend's sister house. I called her Aunt Teresa, and I say, Aunt Teresa, give me a cigarette. She say, hold on. She go in to go get the cigarette, and he came in. And I was looking at him, and everything in my body was telling me I needed to run, but I couldn't figure out why, because at the time I didn't recognize him. And he was like, hey, I've been looking for you. And I'm looking around like, oh, why are you looking for me? And he said, I've been looking for you. He said, I need to talk to you. And he asked me where I lived at, and I pointed across the street. He said, come on, let's go smoke his. I was standing there, and I'm like, and the only excuse I could think of not to walk off was I was waiting for Aunt Teresa to bring me a cigarette out, and he countered the offer with, I'll pay you a pack. He ended up going back to penitentiary, notorious for selling. He ended up back in penitentiary. And I was writing him back and forth, corresponding. Now, up until this point, I had written many men in penitentiary, and nothing ever came of it. Usually once they call them duck letters. So once you get out of jail, you usually don't go looking for her. I always signed up for the victim information and notification system. So when you get ready to get out of jail, the system starts making phone calls to me to let me know you out of jail. So that way I know to stop sending letters to the penitentiary. I'm not wasting paper, ink, and envelope, stamps and things. Well, I got the van line information, the notification that he was going to be released in 30 days. I was on my way out my door, and I looked out the window, and he was walking up the sidewalk to me. And it was like, oh, okay. Then 2 days later, we were sleeping, and I woke up out of my sleep, and he had a knife in one hand and a pair of scissors in the other, and he had them at my throat, telling me that I was dreaming about some guy and he was upset and I've been cheating, and I'm like, you've been locked up and no such thing as cheating. But that was the day that the abuse started, and then from then on it was a daily thing. Anytime he got mad, he would make up things. One of the incidents was I was just really severely depressed, and I was sitting in my kitchen staring out the window, and I wasn't really looking at anything. I was just locked in my thoughts. Well, he looks out the window past me, and he sees this guy, and he knew I had seen this guy one time. We had one night stand. Well, he looks up, and he sees dude, and he goes in a room and plugged up an iron, unbeknownst to me, but he went and plugged up the iron. So I was sitting there, and he comes back in there, and he's yelling at me that I'm looking out the window at that guy and that I'm lusting for him. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was not looking at anybody in particular. I'm just looking out the window. And he started a fight with me. We get into a fist fight. He walked away. I started washing dishes. And my intuition just says turn, and turn in defense mode. So when I turned like this, and he was coming toward my face with an iron. So behind this tattoo, there is an iron burn. It gave me second-degree burn. He didn't allow me to go to the hospital because he didn't want to go to jail, and that was always the normal. A couple of days after that, he had attacked me from behind. He had wrapped something around my throat and started to strangle me. He held me down. He poured bleach, laundry detergent, and dish detergent in my eyes. I literally couldn't see for a week. He wouldn't let me go to the hospital then. Fast forward to 10 years ago, and my father passed away. The day before the funeral, he beat me so bad that I wasn't recognizable. I had to start a makeshift argument with my family to seem like I was the toxic one. Because I didn't want my brothers to see me like that, because I knew if they saw me like that, they would have killed us. So I hid it from them. And then one day, my oldest brother came over there. I had a party or something, because I throw parties all the time just to keep people around. So I go fishing and have big fish fries and parties and invite the whole neighborhood and his family and mine, just to keep people around so that I could kind of somewhat be safe throughout the day. And my oldest brother came over there, and I happened to be going in the house to get some more. And I heard him in there. My brother told him, he said, "Look, I keep hearing rumors that you're putting your hands on my little sister. Her daddy used to beat my mom when I was a kid and couldn't do nothing about it, but I'm a grown man now. And if I find out, if she tell me, or I see evidence that you're doing it, because I ain't get it out of her mouth, but if she say it, or I see evidence, I'm going to kill you and go do it penitentiary time. Because I'm not going to let a man do to my sister what was done to my mama, and I know about it. I did everything I could after that to hide it from Nate, trying to see my mom and everybody else. I have a total of 6 children, and my father had custody of 3 of them when he died. His wife kept my 2 daughters, but my son was very violent, so she had stuck my oldest son in a mental institution and told me she wasn't going back to get him. When I went and got my son, and my son came into the home, it kind of woke me up a little bit. I had left a few times and just played sucker for love and went back. He was abusive to me, he was abusive to Zion, and he was abusive to eBay, to the point that one day he had eBay cornered in the bathroom. He was locked in where I couldn't get in. And eBay said that he was on that narrow strip on the back of the tub, and dude was running just boiling hot water in the tub. It was coming out. The temperature I had tempted, it came out at 250 degrees Fahrenheit. One night, he had left out, and eBay came to me and he said, "Mama, he don't have any more times to put his hands on me, you, or my baby brother. I'm going to come in and sleep while he's laying next to you." So that was my eye opener. First it was my brothers, and now it's my son. I can't allow my son to go penitentiary. So I then stuck eBay in a psych ward, had him evaluated, which gave me time July the 1st, 2015 at 11:45 a.m. was when I left. The night before, we had 1 pack of cigarettes, and I knew that he always wanted me to spend my money as fast as I could, as much as I could, because he felt like if I didn't have any money, then I couldn't leave. And anything I didn't spend, he would take. So that night, I spent the whole night getting rid of the cigarettes. I was dropping whole cigarettes in the toilet. I was breaking them up, throwing them around just so he couldn't see them, to make sure that pack was empty. So when we woke up, it was only 2 cigarettes in there. And I knew he was going to be lazy and not want to go nowhere. The night before, I just played it like stop. Then we ended up fighting anyway. And that night, I was fed up. Because I got to the point where his licks didn't hurt. When he hit me, it didn't hurt so much. He couldn't knock me down anymore. I didn't bleed as hard. I didn't bruise as much. And once I started to notice that, I started praying. And I prayed and I said, "God, if you just let me go, just give me one opportunity. And one clear opportunity where I can get away, and I swear I'll never go back. Just give me one more time." I said, "I know I prayed this before, but I promise I won't go back." So when we got into that fight the night before, I took that curio cabinet was heavy. I picked it up and I hit him in the back of his bald spot while he was walking away from me. And it knocked him out, and he was laying in the floor in wood and glass. And I stepped across him and I went to bed with my baby. The next day, I woke him up, cleaned it up, pretended like everything was okay, like I normally did. And when I saw him pull out the lawnmower, that was my opportunity. And I lit that last cigarette in that package. And I say, "I gotta go. I need the keys to the car." And he's like, "Okay." And I run in the room, and I wake up my baby and I put on what my baby had on the day before. And it took everything in me to stay calm and to try to be normal. And I'm just thinking to myself, oh, I just know he know I'm getting ready to do something. But when I got my baby strapped in that car seat and walked around to the driver's side and he wasn't behind me, and I finally jumped in that car and I hit those when I started that truck and he pulled the cord to start the lawnmower. I hit the gas. I think I hit the gas, so I even shifted the car in the drive, and I was down. And I haven't looked back. And he still hasn't let go. He has managed to harass me and chase me. He's even with another woman with 4 or 5 other kids after mine, and he still will not leave me alone. There are so many times that I could have died, but I'm a fighter by nature. I was born to fight. And he had caught me at that vulnerable state after the kidnapping had happened. And when that kidnapping happened, that's the only time in my life I had to fight my hardest and I lost. So psychologically, it done something to me. So that's why he was able to do what he done, how he done it for as long as he done it. It was just that one day when I was, enough is enough. And I'm not going to let you kill me. And I'm not going to let my son kill you and throw his life away. I'm not going to let my brothers kill you and throw their life away. They can die on their own terms with their makeup, but not because they were defending me or rescuing me. And I had to rescue myself. I had to save myself. I had a problem when I was younger. And I would go through these binges, and these binges would last for weeks. And then when the binge finally crashed, I would sleep for days. So this particular time, I had been on like maybe a 30-day binge, and I slept for 3 days. When I woke up, I realized I had no food, I had no toilet paper, and it was the middle of the night. It was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So the only thing that was open was maybe about 10 blocks away. But I had a friend that worked there, so I walked up there and got me something I went and got me some toilet paper and some Doritos. I was going back to my house to drop that off, and then I was going to walk up the street to the White Castle to go get me a sack of 10 so I could eat something. Well, this guy sees me walking, and I knew of him. I didn't know him. I knew his name. I had seen him before. He hung around people I knew, but I just never conversated with him or anything like that. He see me, he say, "Hey, Tana, you want to ride?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he asked me where I was going, and I told him I was going home and I was going to White Castle. So he say, "I'll buy you some White Castles." And I'm like, "I got some money." He said, "No, I buy it." I'm like, "Oh, okay." He said, "But I forgot my wallet at home. I need you to ride with me to go get my wallet." So I'm like, "Okay." So it wasn't that far away, so I ride with him to go get the wallet. When we pull up, he say, "I need you to step out of the car while I go in the house." And I'm like, "Oh, you think I'm gonna steal your?" Okay, cool, that's fine. I ain't tripping. I kind of, chuckled it off and stepped outside the truck. So I'm standing there and I light a cigarette, and he kind of bird hugs me a little bit, and he kind of nestled in my neck a little bit. And I'm like, "What you doing?" And I'm trying to move away, but he's got a grip on me, and he makes it like it's a joke, and he lifts me up off of my feet and takes me into the yard, and it's like maybe 3 steps or something to clear that to get onto the porch, and he puts me up there. And I'm like, "No, no, no, I'll wait out here, I'll wait out here." And I heard the door unlock and open. He was like, "Just step right inside the door. You can stand by the door." And I'm just like, okay. So when I stepped inside of the door, he actually shoved me. And there was another guy standing there, and that door had more locks on it than a vault in Fort Knox. But he was the only one that assaulted me that day, and he drugged me in the room. He gave that guy some money in a package and drugged me in that room. And when I tell you, that was the fight of my life. And I fought as hard as I could. When he finally let me go the next day, and I had moved away from him, and I put a car between us where he couldn't catch me. Being who I am, I stayed true to myself. I told him I was glad his man meat was little, I'd really be messed up. And then I ran off on up the street, and then he came for me again, and that was how the stabbing happened. I don't know how he got in my apartment, but he got in my apartment, and I was already 50 shades of paranoid. So it was like I was ready. So as soon as I felt that he had touched me, I just started swinging the knife and I chased him out the door or whatever. And I remember my neighbor had called the police and I'm there with these two knives and I'm covered in blood and in total shock because I think he's somewhere dead. And all I can think of is I'm getting ready to go to jail. But I didn't go to jail, and I think the rape kit was worse than the actual assault itself. That rape kit is horrible, and then have police officers talk to you and oh, it's your fault, and well, what did you do? And why did he think that it was okay? How many times you gotta say no? You swing full force with fist, feet, and everything. No, definitely meant no. But that was he never was arrested for it or anything like that. They put you through that rape kit. It's sitting somewhere in the evidence room in a bag, and it's just not sitting there. I tell my story all the time because you're not the only one. It's more common than a cold. It's more common than cow's milk. That man might seem like he's your ultimate devil, but it's a devil bigger than you somewhere. And that the only one who can change the situation is yourself. And I just want other people to be strong enough to walk away to say, I'm worth it. That I love me more than I love you, and I'm going to fight for me. Because if I don't fight for me, then how can I expect somebody else to? And sometimes it just takes somebody who looks like you or sounds like you or to hear details in the story and say, I went through that. So if she can get out, then I can get out. And that's why now I tell it all the time. Especially when I see females that are in that situation. Baby girl, why are you letting him do it? There's nothing on the planet that is worth that because it's gonna kill you. Eventually he'll kill you. And then I've had a couple of friends who also they didn't get to survive. They became victims. So I do it for the Donjarays and the Ulishas. I do it for women like that. I do it for women like my mom, for women like me.